Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Freeman Files here on the J-Free 906 podcast channel. Mike, Owen, and I with you here tonight. And how you doing, Mike?
Doing well. Trying to stay warm up here in Iowa. You know, we're like negative 23, negative 24 wind chill. How's it down there?
Well, it was actually cold today. It was, I think we had a high of 61. The sun finally came out around, I don't know, 11.
My heart bleeds for you.
Oh, but it was, anyway. I know, nice. I hate to rub it in, but you know what? It's over, and a week from Saturday, we got to go back. And I'm like, so I was going to tell any of our viewers tonight that might be in Pennsylvania, would you please turn the heat up before we get there? My blood is all thinned out now. I can't take the cold at all. I don't know what to make of it, but anyway.
Yep.
Oh, folks, thank you for being here with us tonight. We are going to be talking about Expedition Bigfoot Season 6, Episodes 4 and 5. We're going to cover both of them. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to do 6 and 7. I guess there's going to be 8 from what we've found out. Linda was helping us. She was looking into some stuff. And I guess Rotten Tomatoes or something said that there was 8 episodes. So maybe there is. So but every couple of weeks, we'll get these things in and cover them. And we'll go through all that stuff for you. So thank you for being here with us. And if you haven't already, we'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel. And also click on that thumbs up if you like the content of the show we do here for you tonight. Anybody that's was interested at all in the Curse of Oak Island, we had an awesome show last night. And I say not because of me, but because of our guests that we had last night. We had 3 of the cast members of the Curse of Oak Island here live last night. It was Terry Matheson, Laird Niven, and also Steve Guptill. And it was a blast. We had a great time. So if you are interested at all in that, check out that podcast. It's on the YouTube channel here, and you can check that out. It was so much fun. Those guys were awesome and gave us a lot of good detail. Still working on Russell Acord to find some time when that man is not so busy. He can come on and join us here talking about Expedition Bigfoot because, it's been a good season. These last couple of episodes, not a lot of, super revealing stuff, but we do have some things to talk about of interest, of course, as we go along here tonight. I'll tell you what, let's get started with it, shall we? What do you think,
sure.
Mike? All right.
Cool. Let's dive into it.
Yeah. So, right off the bat, the guys you got Biko Wright and also Dr. Maria Mayer. They were kind of involved in, they were searching the perimeter of their camp. Now, if you remember from last week or 2 weeks ago, episode number 3, they had picked up with that LiDAR. Remember the LiDAR that was set up, a stationary LiDAR unit was set up in their camp. And along with infrared. And so the LiDAR picked up something walking into the perimeter of the extreme edges of the perimeter of their camp. They saw it on the LiDAR. It kind of turned and then it walked away. So that was really, really interesting. And so they took off that night. They went out looking for it to see if they could find any tracking of it. So they were working around the perimeter of the camp, looking for evidence of it, and they are in that area that they saw it, and they didn't find anything at all. And that brings up that curious question. We're going to talk about this a little bit more as we go along in tonight's show, but there's always been that question about Bigfoot. If Bigfoot exists, does it have the capability of picking up on electronics, electromagnetic fields? Can it see IR and all that kind of stuff? Is it capable of, detecting electronics in some way or shape or form? I don't know. So we'll dig into that a little bit more because Russell had a very good thing going on with that as well.
Yep.
On the show. So one of the things that it was what I used for tonight's thumbnail because I thought this was really, really cool. When Bryce got back he was out talking to people as he often does, goes out at night. Why he always does it at night, I don't know, but he was off talking to folks that were eyewitnesses. And quite honestly, some of these eyewitness accounts, first of all, are disturbing to say the least.
Yep.
What like we talked about this before, but like the ability for them to get down on all fours, like crab crawling or spider walking.
Spider crawl.
Yeah,
Yep. Gecko crawl. Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and moving without seemingly to be running or whatever, just kind of moving along.
Gliding. Yeah.
Gliding.
They have a glide step.
What is that all about? I mean,
well, that makes sense given their weight. They're not going to walk like we do. We walk on stilts, on stiff legs.
Yep.
I have the knees to prove it. It's not a very good way to move on straight legs, and they keep their legs bent. And that's not only does that make sense given how much weight they have how much weight they're carrying, in their upper bodies and stuff. Also, moving over uneven ground, using your legs more like a suspension system, like on a vehicle to absorb the unevenness of the ground. Yeah. All of that makes sense as to why they would move differently than we would. And you add on top of that the mid-tarsal break in their foot, allowing the front part of their foot, mid part and front part, to stay on the ground again to help distribute that additional weight that they carry compared to us. Whereas we, I think they talked about that in the episode last night about how when our foot goes up on the ball of the foot, that's kind of like a lever that helps propel us forward.
Right.
And they don't move that way. They move just different enough that, but again, all of that makes sense from, a physics standpoint, that things would be that way. So,
right. And from eyewitness accounts, because you hear some of these eyewitness accounts, you're like, okay, that can't be a Bigfoot. How could it move that way? And then when you take into some of these considerations like that, you're like, oh, maybe they can. Maybe that is possible. So, and we have more of that coming up too, talking about that with it was Dr. Emily, and I forget, I can't pronounce her last name, Splickall, Emily Splickall. But anyway, we're going to be talking about some of her information she had also as we go along tonight. So very interesting when you look at that aspect of their movement, which is really quite disturbing. But on that same token, that would be, and you've seen some of the evidence that the crew or the team has captured, where it just simply disappears all of a sudden when they're watching it, or it's and it can hide so well. If you remember, there was a episode last season where excuse me, where Russell was watching what looked like a couple of deer, and something was popped up in the a heat signature popped up in the bushes looking at the deer. The deer saw it, took off, and then that thing disappeared. So you talk about some of these instances where this, whatever it is that he's observing, disappears so quickly, so easily. Is that possibly because of this movement, or is it because of some other things like portals and stuff that, I don't know. I mean,
other capabilities.
Thank you. That's a great way to put it. Other capabilities that we don't understand at this point. So it's possible, I suppose. But all right, so let's move along. I got a couple of pictures here I want to show. And this one here, when Bryce gets back after he was out on the road talking to some witnesses, and he gets back to the command center there, and he is like freaked out. Initially, he asked the guys, "Are you rolling? Are you rolling?" And he wants to go out, and he's looking around the area. He had seen on this glass, I don't remember if this was a door glass or a window, but he saw this handprint on it, and he was like astonished by what he had seen here.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, I think this is an awesome catch. And I'm going to show here in the next one. This is after he had been brushing it he got out his little kit, which is like for handprint, fingerprint kit. and he's brushing it on the glass. I mean, look at the size. There's another picture here. You can almost detect like on some, not really some fingerprint patterns on those tips there, but 4 fingers and a thumb over here on the side, and then the top part of the palm, and then around the edge and the bottom, a little bit of the bottom, and then that thumb over there, like it just put its hand up. And now he put his hand up to it right there. Look at a size difference, Mike. I mean, isn't that that's incredible?
Yeah. That's pretty amazing.
I don't know what to make of that.
Can you go back?
Yeah.
One picture?
Yep.
So again, one of the descriptions, because if you look at where Bryce lined his palm up at the base of that print and the base of his palm down here. But one of the descriptions that's very often given is that their thumb is not in the right place for a human. It sits lower on the hand down here. So where he lined up was probably not. He should have lined up maybe across here, and then shown how much longer the fingers were and how much further down the palm goes. And then that thumb, the way you see that, it looks like it was maybe just this part that touched. If you follow that back down, it would be further down on the hand. There's just some, subtle differences that people report that, again, anatomically kind of makes sense if you're talking about something that's somewhere between, a primate and a human. It's got a little bit of both characteristics. So I thought that was pretty interesting that matches up with a lot of the reports, is that when people see them, their hands are not quite the same, or at least the thumb is not quite the same.
Right. And something that somebody pointed out here too, right there, Kevin, the first time you've seen the handprint. Yeah, me too. That's the first time I saw what they thought was maybe a handprint in the mud or in the ground. Yeah. We've seen that before. But there's the lemon drop says, fingers look short relative to the palm. I thought the same thing. If you're talking about, and I don't have my pointer up. If you can see my mouse, this portion of it here, if that's this part of the hand right here, then the fingers do look like they're short in comparison, like a very large palm, more like what you would expect a gorilla hand to look like, in my opinion. But then again, what have you heard, Mike, about the formation of those fingers? Are they like supposed to be shorter than a human's comparative to the palm?
No.
Like your palm and your fingers are about the same size, quite honestly, at least on my hand. This portion here is about the same as this portion here. And here it doesn't look like the palm looks like it's like a time and a half versus the length of the finger. What's your take on that?
Well, I think we can't assume that the top of those smudges are the tips of the fingers.
Correct. Yeah, that's true.
That could be one digit back and the tips of the fingers just didn't touch. I don't know. We have to see. That is a good question about the ratio, because I know Dr. Meldrum has in his book, not that I have props or anything, but in Dr. Meldrum's book, he has some good data sets that are graphs, charts, that show ratios, mostly of the feet, heel and length of foot and all that kind of stuff. But not as much on the hand, because I don't think there are as many handprints. They don't have those as many, or don't have as many to pull data from. So I don't know that you can say for sure that that's the tip. I would agree, if that is the tip, then the fingers really weren't much longer, and maybe like I said, the thumb could be further back. But yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting to see the detail of the dermal ridges, and does that indicate whether those are fingertips or one digit back from the fingertip section? I'm sure they could probably figure that out. I don't remember what he said he did with all that once he was done dusting.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, well, he did, and let's move forward a little bit. And there's some good points there. Eva was agreeing with Jan, said the hand might have been bent a bit with the print, so fingers look short. Yeah. So we don't know. First of all, we don't know if this is a Bigfoot print. Sure. It is not doesn't look to be a human print. So either they're being faked out here. This is a hoax, or not by the guys, because I don't believe that they would do that. I honestly don't believe that they would do that. I believe they may have more integrity than try to fake something for TV purposes. But I'm talking about someone else coming into their area and doing something that would make them think it's Bigfoot when it truly isn't. It would be hard, in my opinion, to fake something like this unless you got some kind of weird glove. But then, even then, would you be able to actually get if you had a glove on, would it still give you the same print style? It'd be hard, I think, to fake it. I don't know.
Yep.
But we don't know if this is a Bigfoot handprint. We don't know how the hand was laid out, is what my point is on that. So we don't, so it'd be interesting to see what they come up with. Now, Bryce did, like I said, first of all, he put his hand up to it to get a size comparison. And like Mike just said, he could have rotated his hand a little differently, but he was just trying to get a size comparison, I believe, at this point, without touching the glass and put it up there. But then he did, when he dusted it, he put this piece up there to actually capture it onto this film. And I don't know what this is. I don't know. It's obviously some sort of transfer paper. But yeah. So yeah, I was reading what Dodge Gaze, our guy, says here, that also I have to question it may be some sort of trolling. There might be, we don't know anyway. Yeah. So if people know they're in the area, they try not to make a big pronouncement about it, but people know they're in the area because they're going around and talking to folks. So would they be trying to prank them? Yeah, it's possible. You got to look at that at all points of this. Somebody could be trying to prank them. Yeah. Why don't you see the palm pressing on the ground? Oh, you mean when they find a print in the dirt? Well, they have, in a way. I think that some of the ones they have kind of gotten a palm print, to a degree like that. But anyway, I can't wait to see what the analysis of this is and who is he going to send it to. I think Dr. Meldrum would be an awesome person to send it to. Yep. And I saw somebody had mentioned on here also about having Dr. Meldrum back on the show. Would love to.
Yes.
Well, maybe at the end of the season, we can look at having him come back and talk to him. I don't know if he watches the show or not. I don't remember if we asked him that.
I imagine he's pretty busy. I don't know that he has time for a lot of TV.
Yeah, probably not. So, but that analysis is going to be truly interesting to see what he comes up with from there. So that
I would have liked to have seen him also take just a little bit of that for DNA.
Yeah. I don't know how would you do a swab of it?
Yeah,
like a swab. Yeah, that would have been a good idea right there. And see what it comes back as. Maybe he did, and we didn't see it. I'm really hoping, because we know that last season there was several things that they saw, some eDNA and some different things that we never heard anything else about it. And we were waiting for that follow-up show that they often do in between seasons, where we get a follow-up and they kind of go through and answer some of those questions when they get the data back. We never heard about some of those things from last season. I hope this is the case with this, because I really would like to know. I'd also like to see more of the full data set after it's processed from that LiDAR.
Yes.
From last week's show, because that LiDAR was that was awesome. I mean, and I know that there's probably more. There's probably more in. We're going to be able to see more once they really do the full processing, because that process, that was right off the bat. I mean, that's what they saw in real time. So hopefully we'll get to see that. So Russell, all this time, Russell took off and he saw that heat signature that we showed last time that had moved. He was watching it across that valley, as he often does. With his scope and his his heat infrared or thermal, and he was looking at that, and it moved in such a way that he felt they needed to go over there right away and go find it. So off they go to look for that, and they come across. They never really find it. One of the things that and I've noticed them do this a couple of times on the show, and I'm going to pop this picture up there real quick. this was sometimes they've been adding things, I think, into this season to give it more drama. I'm going to say that part of it. I don't know that always what they do on there, was it completely necessary or is it there for drama? We don't know. I think Russell and his cameraman did, in fact, need to get down there because they were in a spot where they were on a very, very high mountainside looking across a valley to a mountainside on the other opposite of them. And they needed to go quickly. So on this one, I felt that they probably did need to go rappel down this to save time because they're miles. I mean, it was like over a mile across, I think, something like that, like last time, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So to be able to go all the way around and down, find an easier way down and around was going to take a day probably at least or more. And then a few hours to rappel down. So in this case, I thought it was a good idea for them to rappel. We saw the one where Biko and Dr. Mayer rappelled down next to that waterfall. That was pretty dangerous.
Yeah. Even Biko said in the survival situation, you don't do this.
No. Yeah.
So
I was a little like, well, why do they really need to do that?
Yeah.
But I had to rappel in stages. Yeah, Eva's talking about that on here. Yeah, for sure. Because they only had 200 foot of rope. They had to go like 600 feet, 700 feet. So,
yep.
Yeah, long way. But they were able to accomplish it within a few hours, which I thought was really cool. So anyway, they made their way down. They got down to the bottom. They were trekking across. And then, of course, it became nightfall. And at that point, they're still tracking. And something I thought was very interesting that Russell had said, and anybody who is, if you're any bit of an outdoors person and you are, a hunter or anything like that, you're tracking, you're aware of your environment. You're starting to work on tracking certain, you're looking for prints. You're looking for broken branches, on tree limbs. You're looking for foliage that has been matted down by footprints or whatever. You're looking for these signs. And Russell had made the comment that as he was going along, he got to a point where he wasn't sure if he was still following the trail that he thought he was, following, because all of a sudden he's not seeing the evidence of a trail, the whatever it is that he's trying to find. He did find a broken limb and he looked at it, but the leaves were kind of old and dry. And so that was not a fresh break. And you see these tracking, this is something from somebody who knows what they're doing as an outdoorsman. And Russell certainly does. But as they go along and he's starting to feel like maybe he missed the trail somewhere along the way, they come across a cabin in the woods. And knowing, you look at this thing and yeah, it does look a little rough. You see the area right here of the shingles that look like it's kind of, not in the best of shape, but you look up here and you see a stainless steel, probably double or triple wall pipe sticking up on it. So that's relatively new.
Yeah.
Within, modern times anyway, I'd be kind of scared. I mean, he was very, looking around. I mean, I'd be afraid to even get close to this thing. Yeah, that's what I thought, Kevin. It's like, he was looking for evidence of activity, recent activity, and he wasn't seeing it. So he kept proceeding. But I mean, what do you think, Mike? Would you just go ahead and, walk on in?
Nope. People in the country have guns.
Yes.
And you come up on somebody's shack like that in the middle of the night,
in the middle of nowhere,
right? You're going to get a shotgun shoved in your face. So I did notice that when he went to open the door, he went very, very slow, and he was looking everywhere on that door. It'd be good to ask, what was he looking for? It was almost like he was looking for a booby trap, quite frankly, because he was checking the top edges and down and up, and he opened it very carefully, and he was checking to make sure nothing was, he wasn't tripping anything. At least that's what it looked like to me. And we know he's got a good background in the military, so I suspect he was on edge a little bit, which he probably should have been.
Yeah. Remember the last time he found a little cabin in the woods?
Yeah. Yeah, he got himself cornered. He only had one way in and one way out. Then when something showed up, he was in a little bit of a spot. So
yeah, he was freaked out because something made a bang on the wall, and he was like, I'm trapped in here. But if there was whether it was a bear or anything else, he would have been trapped. It would be at the doorway, and he had to go through it to get out. Looks like one of those sequels to Pig, Wrong Turn.
Squeal Like a Pig. Yep.
Squeal Like a Pig. Yeah.
Banjo.
Cabins. Yeah. Indeed. A moonshiner lure ought to be the reason enough to avoid trying that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Squeal Like a Pig. Yeah. Do you hear any music playing? Banjo music? Yeah. Yeah, so I'd have been he once he got in there, he knew what he was looking at. It was a logger's cabin that was used for when they're up there logging, and then obviously there wasn't any recent activity of logging. See the corn stalks from the shed, seeds that got spilled. I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that at all. But anyway, if it was even a moonshiner shed, I mean, that's somewhere you don't want to be caught trespassing if that belongs to someone, and it obviously does, and we don't know who. But anyway, all turned out well, and he was able to use it and as a base camp for a day or so while they were exploring that area, which worked out really well for them. Even had and that was the other thing, you knew it wasn't too old because the lantern inside still had gas in it for him to light it. So I thought even more reason why I'd be real nervous about being there. And leaving my pack behind, because he said something about leaving his pack in there and being a little bit lighter as he goes. But anyway, so they found that shack and they went ahead and utilized it to do some more of their work. So let me jump back over here because I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the people that Bryce, Bryce. I think does a fantastic job when it comes to speaking with people and taking the data that they collect and talking to the right people about that data to get a little bit more in-depth look at it. In this particular case, he spoke with this gentleman here, Stuart Semple, primatologist and president of the Primate Society of Great Britain. And he was talking to him about that recording we had from last time about the they were calling it teeth chattering. It was that knocking sound. I do have another example of that that I recorded from because they got it again. And I don't know. I'm assuming that everybody that's here was here last week, and you probably already heard that recording. But if you haven't, let me know, and I'll try to bring that up and play it again for you. But it was that. It sounded to me as if it were you take a piece of a large, like a bamboo wind chimes. You got those larger pieces of bamboo that are dried, and then you hit on them with a stick or something, and they make that knocking sound. It's very distinct. That's what it sounded like to me, or pardon me doing that, but that kind of a sound. That sound was pretty interesting. Or coconuts. Yeah, exactly, Jan. And it's not a sound that I could imagine any animal in the woods, especially at night, making. How about you, Mike? Did that come across as anything you would imagine hearing?
Yeah, no, and these guys all, even with Biko being added to the season, all those guys have spent so much time in the field that if they don't know what's making that sound, then it's probably something pretty unique. I don't know of anything that makes that sound. I know that it is reported, though, that Sasquatch sounds include mouth pops and clicks or teeth clacking. I don't know that people always know exactly how they're making some of the sounds they make, but that's what it sounds like anyway. So I think that it was all still within the realm of of potentially a Bigfoot, because that's just, it's not the type of thing you hear a bear make a noise like that, or cougar, or raccoons, and a lot of those animals, they have a wide range of noises they make.
Exactly.
And it's still not something any of those guys have ever heard. So that's a pretty good key indicator to me. They've got a lot of experience. So, it always sounds probably different in person than on that recording even.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure that they have a good idea that it's out of the ordinary.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that, so they take it, they take that sound, and he went to, to find out if anybody had, was able to come up with a reason or something else that would make it, some animal that would make that sound. So they reached out to Stuart to see what he thought, and he listened to it, and he came up with a teeth chattering. And I hadn't thought of that.
Yep.
I mean, I wouldn't want to be smacking my teeth together that loudly or that hard.
Yeah.
But apparently there are, you think about that. There are primates that do some teeth, whether it resonates that far, I don't know. But you talk about cranial structure as well as that teeth popping. If you were popping your teeth together, it's possible you might get that sort of sound, I would think, by that. And so he was talking about that. They showed an example of some different primates, monkeys or whatever, making, clattering their teeth together. But you think about it, you hear that sound in the woods. And like Mike just said, no other animal, these guys have no other animal they could think of that would make a sound like that. And they've heard many. What else could make that sound? Would it be a human doing what I was saying? Or like Jan was saying, coconuts. Yeah, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, the opening scene, they're come riding over. The guy's got those coconuts, clacking them together. It would have to be something like that to make that weird kind of sound. Or like I was saying, the bamboo and a stick on a hollow piece of, thumping on something. But teeth chattering, that's not something I had thought about.
Yep.
But he did, so... and and supposedly Bigfoot has a weird, cranial structure that would indicate or, give some sort of a different sound to something like that. If it were teeth chattering. And the guy was Stuart was very clear to say, if it is teeth chattering, then yes, these things could take place, or it could be this, or it could be that. He was very clear to say, because he doesn't know exactly what it was.
Sure.
Neither does anyone else. And I'm glad that he was that way about it. He was making sure to not say, oh yeah, that's definitely teeth chattering or whatever, but interesting to say the least. But we still really don't know exactly what that sound was all about.
Right.
So hopefully we'll get, I don't know if we'll ever get any more evidence on that or not. One of the things that Russell had done was he had set up some trail cams around his camp. And this was a point where I wanted to, let me get to one of my pictures here. He had set up some trail cams, and I don't find the picture. Why don't I have the picture here? Thought I had it. Anyway, not a big deal. He had set up these trail cams, and this is something that Mike and I have talked about before. Let me stop it. Would love to see if they put through one of those voice print machines to see what it looks like.
Spectrogram is what that's called. Yeah. You can see all the frequencies at the same time. Yeah, I'm almost surprised that they didn't show that, because they do that on in most cases.
Actually, he did. Bryce did, because when he was playing it for this gentleman here, he had it up on his. You could see it on his monitor, one of his monitors. He was looking at it, but whether they did much with it, I don't know.
That was the normal display. That wasn't spectrogram, though. Spectrogram gives you a lot more detail than just the amplitude. That was like amplitude over time. Spectrogram gives you frequencies, and then if there's examples of primate teeth clacking, if that's what he thought it was, you could do the same thing. Record a known primate teeth clacking and compare the two in spectrogram. And do they look similar? So that would have been good to see.
Yeah, I would have. And that's something that Mike had asked me at the end of last time we had talked about episodes 2 and 3. Mike says, "Yeah, send that file over to me so I can mess around with it." And yeah, I completely forgot. So I'm gonna.
That's okay. I forgot too. So no harm, no foul.
Yeah, I'll definitely get that over to you so that we can you can play around with it a little bit, because I do have a couple of files. I got another one because he heard it again. But he set up these trail cams, a couple of them around his this perimeter of this cabin, I believe it was, and because he figured that the trail was coming through there. He also mentioned another very interesting point about being an outdoorsman, which was to say that these creatures, any animal in the woods, is going to get used to a particular, even if it's a man-made structure, it's going to get used to it over years, over time. That it might be passing through that area. It sees a tree stand. That's why you put them up and you leave them out there, or a blind you put in the woods for hunting or whatever. You put it up and leave it out there because the animals will get used to seeing it there and then eventually not think anything about it. Therefore, you can then use it for a hunting blind and they will still walk right by it because they see it. Same thing he thought about that cabin. It's been there a long time. Now they're used to seeing it. So now he can utilize that as a base camp and also set up his perimeter. So, and during this episode, whatever it was had come through there, and he did see evidence of this trail of something coming through there, whether it was kicking up, parts of the forest floor or whatever. He saw that something had come through there and had gone around his trail cam. It didn't follow the normal trail through. It went around the trail cams, the backside. Now, was that a bear and it just was a fluke because a bear got distracted for a moment and went around? Or was it something with more intelligence that knew that those trail cams were there?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Trail cams are like the first line of defense when there's someone that's in their home is being harassed, so to speak, by or getting unwanted attention, let's say from a Bigfoot. The first recommendation that they're given usually is to put up trail cams or motion sensing lights, because typically once those go up, they don't come around anymore, or they don't get that close. So there have been reports of someone. I know there was a report of someone shining a very high power infrared flashlight in their face, and when they did, it flinched. It did that to cover its face, cover its eyes. So, and it's not out of the realm of possibility at all to have animals see in different spectrums. They hear in different frequencies. So all it would need is just to see just enough into the near infrared spectrum to be able to know that something's there. I mean, it could be a lot of other things too. That could be somehow sensing the EMF being given off by a trail cam. So bottom line is they clearly have the ability to avoid them. Whatever it is, we can speculate, how they're actually doing it, but they avoid them. And they do it rather proficiently. So,
yeah. Now there are different animals, and they mentioned a couple. They mentioned insects. There are certain insects that can see in the infrared. Also, they called it pit vipers. A snake is called a pit viper. It uses that to track its prey. It's using a heat signature to track its prey, and there are insects that do the same thing. So, is it possible that if Bigfoot exists, it can see it? Yeah, it's possible because other animals can do it. Same thing we talked about other animals that can camouflage, like the octopus. That quite honestly to me is an alien creature, but they can also change their shape and color based upon their surroundings to hide. So is it out of the realm of possibility that if Bigfoot exists, that he can do the same thing? Why? Yeah, certainly. But so can it see infrared? We don't know, but it is not out of the realm of possibility that it could. So what Russell had done, and I don't have any pictures to show this, but what he had done was he decided that he's going to set something up. This was in the latter part of last night's episode, that he's going to set something up to hide the trail cams. So he took some evergreen branches and whatnot, moved the cameras, and then he put these evergreen branches and he hung them down in front of the cameras to hide them. And then he set up a tripwire across the trail so that something would be walking along. It couldn't see them because they're being hidden by the branches. It would trip it, knock this log over. The log would fall and pull the branches or drop the branches and then get a capture of whatever it was, because that movement of the branches falling would instantly kick on those cameras. So that alone would kick them on and make them start working and recording, and then hopefully catch whatever it was that had hit the tripwire. Will it work? We don't know. Hopefully, because they didn't show that. They ended the episode before we got to see if that plan works. But wouldn't that be cool if that worked?
Yeah, that's a pretty innovative idea. I like it. I mean, he's addressing the fact that if they can see the infrared, at least, if they can still sense the EMF, you don't know how they're actually able to tell that they're there, but they seem to be able to. So, but to completely block it, when we first held up the bows in front of the camera, the sensor can't even sense if you're going to cover it that much. And then he's like, oh, no, I'll put up a tripwire. I'm like, ooh, that's a good idea. I like that. Yeah. So good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, once those branches fall, that's going to kick on the camera because of that movement. And then they'll be able to capture whatever it is. So hopefully next week, because at the end of the episode, when he heard that noise again, he was out there with his parabolic microphone and his infrared. And he didn't really he did catch something on the infrared, but it was so quick. It moved so quick. We don't have an idea exactly of what it was. If it was standing up on 2 feet or if it was an animal with its head and shoulders above the foliage or whatever. We didn't get a really good look at it to see what it was, but it was gone. And then he thought they went tracking. They went after it. And he said, it's heading for my trap. So hopefully we'll see what happened and if it gets tripped or if he thwarted once again by it tripping the cameras, but it caught nothing. Wouldn't that be interesting to see that? Sorry about that. I'm just moving something there. And that's, I had to move that over and get my little thing ready here to my pointer. So we'll see what happens with that next week, but that's an interesting concept. And he talked about that very thing about it being able to see or sense those cameras. So we'll see what happens. With really interesting to see what he comes up with. One of the other things that they did, that Bryce did, was he was talking with a woman who is a doctor, Dr. Emily. I'm going to bring up her picture, and I know I'm probably botching her last name, and I'm so very sorry for that, but Splikal, something like that. Functional,
sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good, right? Functional podiatrist and movement specialist. Now, this is where we were talking about how the foot works on a human being, and the fact that we push off for forward momentum. So as your foot goes and you're pushing off with this part of your foot from there to the toes, you're pushing off. And that's why you would see on a human footprint, generally you would see the heel come down, and then you would see the toes actually pushing off in the mud and making a deeper impression as you're pushing off, and it shows that. But when they look at a Bigfoot print, it's different than that. And she explained this very well in the show, I thought. Very, very smart lady. To go, did you have anything? Because I'm going to show a picture. I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
No, go ahead. Show the picture.
Okay, so there was a picture. Let me see. Oh, I got to back up. This one here. Then when they talked about this, they went back in time and they showed one that had been in the mud. Russell had gone down from a train trestle that he had found. This was in Northern California, I believe. I'm trying to remember exactly. It was a few seasons ago. But I wanted to point this one out. And this is one of those times where you see the heel and everything. But and I wanted to show this to Shannon. I was really hoping she could be here tonight. But you can see the big toe definitely, and all the separate toes in this print. And it's more flat, I thought than you would imagine. And again, you don't see that break that you were talking about, but I thought this was very interesting because you can have very defined toe prints. What they had done was they were looking at the one that was scanned by Dr. Mayer when she had scanned it with that Amatec scan tool.
Yep.
And that's this one here. Now, initially you look at it, it looks like, oh, what the heck is that? But if you look at it closely, and they actually did a footprint and kind of put it on there to give you an idea of what it would look like. But you can actually see some toe structure. Here's one here, here's one, and I think there's actually one in here. But you can see that part of the foot right here, and then the heel here, down here in the bottom, the section right around like that. And then the indentation around like on both sides here. So the width of the toe, and then you got the width of the midsection of the foot, and then the toes up here at the top. I know I didn't draw that very, very well, but anyway, if you look at it closely, you can actually see that. And you can see like, here's one of the toes, here's one of the toes, here's one of the toes here. And then that part of the front part of that I don't know what you call that portion of the foot. I keep pointing.
The ball of the foot. Yeah.
But okay. So you can see that right here. All this section right here, you can see the ball of the foot. So, and she was looking at this and then describing about how that would work on a human being, and then trying to compare that to, a creature we don't know anything about. So thought that was pretty interesting. And she went through that very well. I thought,
yeah, that was pretty impressive, the scanner, how well that scanner worked. And I mean, you look at how quickly, that's an email, send that over to her and she can look at it in detail. And it's hard to tell from just a still picture, but as they kind of move that around in 3D space, you can see just how effective those scanners are. And it's immediately digital, from the get-go. And you can send it off to whoever you need to send it off to, whatever expert, to take a look at that. So to me, that just kind of goes to show, I think, the plaster of Paris, it's very old school. It's effective for how things used to be done. But to me, this is the way to go for sure.
Yep. I was looking at the one. What was that one you just had up? From Jan there. Do the footprints look like the footprints of other great apes? Do their feet hit the ground in the same way?
No.
I don't know the answer to that.
No. Yeah, no, they're not. They're much closer to a human's. There's less difference in the foot to a human foot than there is from what I understand, the difference between handprints. Like I said, their thumb is reported to be in a lower spot or a higher spot, I guess, depending which direction you're looking at it, but it's lower on the hand. But foot-wise, it's much closer to what a human footprint would be, at least in the way that it looks, at least initially. And, if you listen to Dr. Meldrum, he can go into a shocking amount of detail on what makes a Bigfoot foot, what you can see in a plaster cast. And when you start to hear just the level of information that he can pull out of that as a bipedal evolution expert, it gets to be really hard to explain how someone, if they wanted to fake something, how they would even know some of this stuff. They'd have to know the level of detail he knows to try and fake something, not to mention how long, footprints have been seen, and Native Americans and First Nations people going back, hundreds of years. So yeah, it's a different structure, but look wise, if you're looking at a silverback or one of their feet, their feet are significantly different. Significantly different.
And it's more like a weird looking. You look at their hand, and their foot is more like a weird looking hand than it would be a
it
foot,
is.
right? And,
Right.
with the capability of gripping, where our feet don't grip like that. So I think it's very distinct that they're two different. It's kind of in between a human foot and an ape foot. I don't know, something like to be said. But I thought that one of the interesting things that she said, and I wrote this down because I wanted to remember it: intelligence associated with bipedal movement. So they're talking about a creature that has the ability for bipedal movement is generally of a higher level of intelligence than most any other animal out there. So I thought that was very significant. So you talk about a creature, sorry, I'm getting a tickle here under my throat all of a sudden, but any kind of a creature, especially one that primarily stays on its feet, on a bipedal all the time, like a human being or Bigfoot, if it exists, is of a higher level of intelligence. Kind of goes back to that thing where I've always said that if Bigfoot does exist, thinking of it as a dumb primate is the wrong way to look at this, because if he exists, he's been able to avoid human, evidence for a long time, at least from, you go back to our indigenous folks in North America, actually all around the world, who have stories of them interacting with these creatures back, many years ago. And then now all of a sudden in modern times, we can't even get a good picture that's not blurry of one or anything like that. We don't have any bones, we don't have any bodies or anything like that. So thinking of it as a dumb primate is not the right way to look at this.
Nope.
So anyway, so that I thought was really interesting, that the intelligence associated with bipedal movement was really interesting with her assessment on that. So, all right. So one of the things, they encounter these things in the forest. You get deep into the woods like this. And there are logging trails, there are roads that go through there all the time and stuff like that. But when they come across things like this cabin in the woods, or they come across like this thing right here, an old train trestle coming through there. And they found it at night. And this is one of those things that you hear Russell talk about quite a bit, because quite often they're tracking something or moving at nighttime trying to find something, and then they come across a cliff or something like that. You have to be very careful of your surroundings and where you're stepping. They came across this at nighttime, and it looked pretty bad from their flashlights. And then they saw it the next day. They thought, well, let's come back here in the morning and see if we can find a way down from here. They came back the next day, and it was even worse than that.
That was pretty funny. It's like, wow, that really is bad. It looks worse in the daylight. That's bad.
That's really bad. So this section of it is really in bad shape. Now here is the whole thing from a drone. Obviously, they put a drone up and get a picture of the whole thing. Would I have tried to cross that? Absolutely no way. I would not try to cross that. I mean, that would, no way. And I don't think any kind of creature or animal is going to try to cross that thing either, because that wood is very, very old and rotten. You get out here in the middle, maybe not so bad, but otherwise, no way. So they had to find another way to get down. And that's where they were talking about, obviously a creature's not going to try to walk across it, so it's going to go down and cross the ground. And that's where Russell had rappelled down one in previous seasons. And then he found that footprint down there in the mud that I showed earlier, down below a train trestle that they had come across. So, they need a robot dog to walk over that thing. Yeah, exactly, Kevin, for sure. I thought that was pretty cool. They come across all these different things in the woods like that. Is pretty neat. One of the things that they did find, and that was one of the pictures there that I just popped up here, was again, when they were in Northern California, they came across several of these tree structures, many tree branches leaning up against, making a triangle or a pyramid type shape, smaller ones, and then bigger ones up to a very, very high, tall ones. And they found them, the ones that they found in Northern California were actually pointing, it was Dr. Maria Mayer and Bryce Johnson were out, and they found these, and they were all, if it kind of looked like it was pointing in that direction, so they went around and they found another one. They kept going, they found another one. Like they were all pointing in a particular direction. So we were trying to decide, thinking of this, if it was created by Bigfoot, is this some sort of a signpost or a directional marker or a territorial marker of some sort? And when they saw this particular one here, these are different from the other ones we have seen because, first of all, the other ones were branches or trees, small trees that they had broken off and used. And again, I say broken off; they were not cut; they were broken off. But most of the ones we've seen before did not have all the branches on them. Those branches were removed. You look at these; they have branches sticking out all over them. They didn't take the time to clear all that off. Is that significant? I don't know. What was your and Biko had made a comment. Biko Wright had made a comment. Yeah, I think they were pointing to a nest last time. You're right. I think they might have been. But Biko had made a comment about different language. Is it a different language?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was kind of interesting. What was your take on these?
Yeah, that was significantly bigger than the ones they've seen in the past. Biko even tried to pick one of them up, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's pretty heavy." So that would have taken a lot of effort. And he did say that they were all in a line. It would have been nice to see that kind of mapped out or see it from above if they could have shown, what direction that was going. So yeah, and they've seen that stack of small sticks, maybe 6 feet high, but a whole pile of them all kind of piled up against a tree. They've seen that multiple times now. They even saw some of those in Kentucky. Yep. So yeah, it definitely seems like there's some kind of intent behind it, and you can speculate forever what people have all kinds of different things for tree structures and the breaks and what they think they signal for Bigfoot. We just don't know really. Yeah. But that was definitely pretty interesting, especially as it got bigger and bigger, to the point where some of those might be hard for a single person, human, to be able to. Those are the ones that I find more interesting, kind of like Russell Acord had said, that's when he gets more interested in tree structures or something that looks like it's been created is when it gets too complicated or too difficult for a human to do, or even, several humans to do by hand. Then it gets to be pretty interesting. Kind of like the upside down trees.
Yes.
You can't do that by hand.
No.
There's no way.
No.
So.
Yep. And that was very true. And they said on this one here, and this is the last one that they found, that there was like 25, Dr. Maria Mayer said something about 25 feet tall. And that's the one that Biko tried to pick up one of them.
Yeah.
And this thing is heavy.
Yeah.
And he's a big dude. He's not.
Yeah, he
is
a
small dude. So, he tried to pick it up and could not. So you wonder, man, the bad thing about these, as interesting as they are, and as Kevin pointed out, they seem to be pointing in a particular direction. What is beyond that? Does it go to a nesting area or something? Is it a signpost for other Bigfoot, or a reminder to them when they're back in the woods? Go, oh yeah, this is where okay, follow these, and we got a nesting area we can use over here. It would be interesting to see if they kept going, and did they find anything like that? Was it pointing to, or was it a sign marker or a territorial marker, or was it created by human beings? We just simply don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
But they are very interesting, especially with what else they found. Now, we've seen them take some eDNA from them before. Again, we did not get some answers from some of that from last season. Dr. Maria Mayer found some hair samples, and she took those off and put them in a bag. eDNA, we never got any confirmation on any of that stuff, so hopefully we will at some point. This one, however, was quite different. When they got to the last tallest one, and I believe it was this one here, down on the lower sections, they came across, whoops, what happened there? Sorry about that. Let me go back here. Well, what happened to my picture now? Let me try to fix that. Hold on. I don't know what happened there. I clicked on the wrong thing. Oh, there we go. Got it back. All right. So what they did was they came across these little patches of hair they found down in the lower portions of it where they could reach. I don't know. I didn't get an idea of just how high these were up off the ground. Did you get that idea?
No, but they were able to reach it. It looked like it was within, human height.
Yeah.
Because they were able to just reach out and touch it. But that was definitely, it wasn't just fur from something as it was walking by. That was collected and has been wrapped with tree bark or twigs or something.
Yeah, look at these
deliberately, even tied. Dr. Raymer said that's actually been tied. Yeah, there. So that starts to make you think, was it a human? Because humans would tie. So, but for what purpose?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Eva. It was interesting
that
it was woven into the branches. That's crazy right there.
Yep.
And you think about this. First of all, only something with thumbs would be able to even put these tree structures up in the first place, to be able to grab the branches and lean them up like that. A bear's not going to do it. No other animal in the woods is going to do it. It's either going to be a human being or some sort of a Bigfoot type creature. Okay. Or going to put these up in the first place. And as Mike said, these were not patches of hair from something going by and it snagged some of their fur and pulled it off. These were created. And you see this one here, and I zoomed in on that example there. They've actually taken that and wrapped it with some sort of I don't know what that is, if it's some sort of bark.
Yeah, it looks like strips of bark.
Strips of bark. Again, either a human or some sort of a creature like a Bigfoot had to have done that. I can't think of anything else that would have created something like that. And why? Is it again, I go back to that whole thing that, is it a territorial marker of some sort? Now, you imagine creatures like dogs, any animals like dogs, and there's many, many others, their sense of smell is so much greater than ours. So much greater than ours. But if you took this and you had that hanging there or placed around there, and it was some sort of a territorial marker, another animal would be able to smell that and be able to determine a species or a village or a tribe or maybe something like that. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know. It was hard to tell exactly what that was made out of, if it was cotton or I don't know. Yeah, good point. What animal would have white fur, like bighorn sheep, maybe? I don't know if those are in Northern California. I don't know what else would be in Northern California with white fur.
I don't either.
Like that, or or would there even be cotton around there?
Plant fiber of some sort, maybe. There'll definitely be tested. You can bet that.
Yeah.
We didn't see her put them in a specimen bag, but she did.
Yeah, sure. As I was going to say is, the fact that that's been tied with that tree bark or wrapped, that something had to touch that. Again, that would be ideal for taking some DNA samples from to try and see if you could catch what was doing that. So
I can't wait. Again, this is one of those things that they come across that that she's taken. I would take that one right there as a sample and send it off to be analyzed for sure. Rabbit fur, yeah. Tufts, wolf, maybe, yeah, exactly. It's white.
Could be white wolf, yeah.
What we know of, I'm going to say Pacific Northwest Bigfoots are not white. The hair is all brown, unless it was an old one. It has gray.
Yeah, could be.
I don't know.
There are reports of white ones once in a while, but it's not very often.
Snow Yeti. I don't know, but it is interesting interesting. Yeah, definitely was created. Was it created by a human being? We don't know. We
Right.
don't know. But we hope, I really hope this is one of those pieces of evidence that we find out more about in coming episodes. I mean, even this one here, you can see the sticks. It almost looks like when fur or something does get wound up in
Mhm.
we used to call them cackle burrows. Those little balls that are all uh, jaggers. They got the stuff sticking out and they
Yeah.
collect air all over them. Or something like that. Um, I don't know. I don't know what the heck to make of this.
It's an odd one.
Yeah, it is definitely odd. Um, there are cottonwoods in California and Washington State. Could it be simply a bunch of this one looks more like cotton when you look at these here. That looks more like cotton than it does hair. So it could simply be plant based, like Linda was saying. It could be plant based something. It might not be hair at all or fur.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Or it could have been, I mean, Russell found that cabin. Could have been somebody dumped an old couch and something, saw it and took it apart and got the man-made, those could be man-made fibers. Doesn't mean that a Bigfoot didn't, pull them out and do this for some reason. It'd be interesting to see. Yeah, I hope they do some analysis to figure out what that is, if it's plant-based or an animal, and which animal. It'd be good to see.
They do test DNA as well, yeah, as well as eDNA. They get a good sample of something, and this is one of those times where I think they do have a good sample to test. So,
yeah,
so maybe so. Natural fibers from plants, possible. Gizzle, possible. Maybe cottonwood, also. Yep. Frog legs wrapped in cotton. Would see something. Yeah, I don't know, but this is interesting. Very, very, and it's the first time that I know that they've come across anything quite like this.
Yeah, I don't remember them seeing anything like that.
No,
it's very unique.
Yep, it is very unique. So, hopefully, we'll find out and we'll get that. That was pretty much the episode. I mean, they had some interesting things they found. And going back to that LiDAR, I really hope that they analyze that. We see more of the data from that LiDAR because LiDAR is awesome. And I'm going to reach out. I have been talking a little bit with Pete Kelsey. I'd like to find out if he's seen this or something. Maybe I'll send him my clip I have of that LiDAR and get his take on it. Because he was with the Bigfoot team before out there in the well, he was up in Alaska. And I forget where he was. Was that Northern California that he was before with the team when he saw that image walk in front of his LiDAR?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I know he was with him at Bluff Creek too when they scanned the Bluff Creek where the Patterson Gimlin film
that's right.
was done. So, like I said, I'm not sure exactly where that was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but yeah, good stuff. I mean, I'm really looking forward to the next couple of episodes, and I really hope we get some of this data, as I said, because it's going to be important. I did want to say too that we, Christine and I, we were down here in Florida enjoying the warm weather and all of that. We went down to Key West. We were hanging out down in Key West for a long weekend. I had a great time down there. On the way back, Christina said, we have to go through and take highway, I think it's 41 along the southern portion of the main state of Florida, going through the Everglades. So on the way back, we were heading down through there, and we stopped off at a place to see the airboat ride tour. We didn't take a tour, and we had some lunch, and we're driving along again a little bit further down the road, and we see Bigfoot standing in a clearing. And so what was it? It was actually a business, and they had a Bigfoot standing there that somebody had carved, and they had a big giant panther. And I didn't realize until we turned around and went back that it was a skunk ape headquarters down there. And Marie Dumont from the Mid-Florida Bigfoot Research Group, great gal. She does a fantastic job. Her and her Mike Aguilar, and I'm trying to remember the other man's name that goes out with them. They've got a nice team that goes out. I've actually went out in the field with them And they've got a gifting area that they do. They've got some prints out there. They see a lot of different types of tree structures. But she is actually friends with Mike Sheely that has this business down there, the Skunk Ape headquarters. We did not get a chance to meet Mr. Sheely, but really, really, really interesting place. And we got the David Sheely. I'm sorry, David Sheely. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I did. I made it there, Eva. I really did. And I had no idea that it was there. We happened to just drive by and we're like, oh, let's go back and see that Bigfoot. And sure enough, that was the place. So it was really cool to go there. I'd love to interview him at some point. So I'm going to have to reach out and talk to him because if you look on YouTube, you will find a video that they had taken. And I don't know, I'm going to have to look up and see exactly how you can find it. I would look for David Sheely or Skunk Ape headquarters. And you'll probably get directed to this particular YouTube channel. But he has a video there of a skunk ape, and they swear up and down that this is real. A skunk ape that was traveling across through the Everglades, running across this area, and it's quite a distance from the camera. But you can see this figure of what looks to be a hairy creature running across through the Everglades there a little bit, and it goes from one bunch of trees to another one, and across you can see it running through. Well, they went out there and they tried to simulate this thing, and Mike Aguilar went out there. They actually tried to simulate this and failed miserably trying to recreate what this was. That tells you that it was not a human being in a, wearing a jacket or a human being wearing some sort of a suit trying to do this, because Mike, and he's a pretty stout dude and muscular, and he could not even come close to recreating what they had filmed. So I suggest you go check that out. You get an opportunity to go look there. Skunk Ape in Florida, David Sheely. Look for that on YouTube and see what you make of that video. It's pretty striking. And when you talk to Marie and them, they are very very adamant that it's real, and so is David Sheely. So interesting stuff. But you get a chance to go to be in southern Florida, you want to stop and check that really cool place. And a lot of stuff. We even got a book. Christina bought a book about it, so she could read up on that whole story of them finding and making that video. So good stuff. So what do you think, Mike? Wrapping up these 2 episodes?
Still good progress. I look forward to these last few episodes, and seems like they're building up towards getting to something a little more substantial, maybe more concrete. I think they've been, again, great utilization of technology. They just always seem to be on the cutting edge of stuff, which I think is something that's necessary to keep trying something new and something different, or maybe a technology that's been used before in a different way, to try and come up with a method that'll get, maybe the definitive proof that we need. Yeah, I don't know. Really great use of technology, the scanner, 3D scanner, and the LiDAR. I really think they need to be doing a lot more LiDAR use. And if that pulls in our good friend Pete Kelsey, that would be very convenient.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
So
send him that picture and that clip and let him watch.
Yes.
That. Lemon Drops. Yeah. In the intro of the first episode, showed Russ finding something major. So I think that's yet to come in the episodes coming up. So
right.
Real good. And real quick before everybody takes off, I forgot I was going to play this little clip. Russell was back in at this. This was like a week after he had heard those first clicking sounds. He was back in the woods and with his parabolic microphone, and he got them again, the same type of thing. I'm going to play these. There's a lot of stuff here. I'm going to try to scan ahead because I didn't edit this clip before. I'm going to turn the volume up and try not to speak because I'm going to get this going right there. All right, so I'm going to play this, and you can hear these clacking sounds once again. So here we go. You hear the crickets and them rustling around. He's looking at his cameraman going, "Are you hearing this?"
Are you hearing that?
I heard something. And it comes again.
Listen.
And of course, the eerie music from the show.
Holy crap.
Holy crap. There it is again. I don't know. That is. When he heard it the one time, it sounded like there was two, and they were communicating in the last episodes. And then here a week later, he hears it again.
Pretty interesting.
It is, and something's communicating out there. Don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So, all right, that's what we have for you here tonight, folks. We appreciate you hanging out with us. And if you like the content of the show we did here for you tonight, please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. And we will have more for you. It's going to be a couple weeks. Give us 2 weeks. We're going to watch the next 2 episodes. Unless there's something earth-shattering in the next one that we just have to hurry up and get back on. We're planning on doing the episodes that will be 5 and it would be 6 and 7 will be in 2 weeks from tonight. And we'll share those with you right here on the J Free 906 podcast and the Freeman Files. And with that, we'll catch you next time. And thank you for joining us. Good night, everyone.